Our next guest is joining us to weigh in on the state of U.S. politics and the mood of the country post-election. We want to welcome Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan. She, of course, is a former special assistant to and speechwriter for President Ronald Reagan. She's got a new book out. It's called A Certain Idea of America, that is a collection of the columns she's written for the Wall Street Journal over almost the last quarter century. I think it's 24 years now. Peggy, first of all, welcome. It is great to have you here.
And thank you. It is for me also.
I mean, as a writer myself, I marvel at what you are able to do, the way you write, how you touch a nerve with people, how you touch a nerve with me, and how you do it again and again, week after week. I'm blown away. I think this collection of columns is something to marvel. What brought you to bring this book together?
Well, thank you, Becky, for everything you just said. You know, the column itself has become just very central to my professional life. In January, as you mentioned, it will be 25 years as a columnist at the Journal. And a publisher came to me and said, let's take a look at the past few years and see if we don't see some themes and ideas in this and make it into something. And so I said yes, and we went through about 400 columns, chose about 90 of them. It was really something to go through these boxes and find all this stuff, but we chose about 90 of them and found that the really big themes, it's very funny, you know, as a writer, you don't quite know what your obsessions are until you look back at the past few years of your writing, and you find out your obsessions. I am obsessed with history and all of its themes and the Civil War and great men and women who somehow either were sterling individuals and sterling artists like Paul Simon and Bob Dylan and Tom Wolfe, or people, regular humans who had a sterling moment that when you look into it just excites you to see.
What would you say about where we stand right now at this moment in our time as history, as someone who is obsessed, you say, with history, and clearly someone who is always focused on politics and the mood of the country? Where are we right now?
Yeah. We're at an interesting point. I think perhaps we don't notice enough. A number of us are still inclined to see the 21st century as this new thing we've stepped into. Honey, we're a quarter of the way through the 21st century as of January, and we've made some big political decisions. And one of the things we did within this 21st century is throw off old establishments. But what we are beginning and what will take their place is not completely clear. But man, we're at a hinge point. Goodbye to that. We're building this.
Yeah, you wrote recently in a column that you think that this is a sign of America becoming more conservative. And I've been kind of mulling that over. I can see that in some ways, but I also feel like this is a move where the Democratic Party just moved so far left, it left a lot of people behind.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think the Democrats have a lot of thinking to do. They, I believe, have lost their reputation with regular people on the street in America, by which I mean it used to be in the old America, you'd say the Democratic Party, what's that? And people could kind of tell you what it is. The party of the little guy, the party of bigger spending, certainly as of the 60s, the anti-war party. Those things, those issues have kind of been stolen by the Trumpian Republicans. And so I think the Democratic Party, having just suffered a significant loss, have to sit down and think, are we going to remake the three things that people understood we stood for? Are we going to get three new things that we stand for? So I think the Democratic Party has a lot of wrestling with itself to do.
Hey, Peggy, I was watching an interview that you had done with my old friend Barry Weiss recently, and you were talking about this meeting that you just had with President Trump for the first time you had ever met him. And I found it fascinating to listen to you talking about that experience, but also your decision not to want to meet him prior. And I'm curious, now that you've met him, actually, whether you think it actually has changed any of your perspective about him.
I think I was babbling away on a stage with Barry Weiss, and she got me babbling in a wonderful interview. She's a great interviewer. It had been my judgment, Andrew, in 2015 and 2016, that Mr. Trump, who I had not formally met, I'd seen him, but I had not formally met him, that he's a kind of riveting and super charming and endearing character up close. And I thought, well, I'm a regular political writer, and something tells me I'm going to be writing about this man for a long time. So I think I do not want to know him, and I do not want to watch him from far away. I want to kind of watch him from a middle distance and get my sense of him from there. So that is what I did. But for 7 or 8 years, I guess. But eventually I was called into a meeting at which he very, very generously and appropriately met with the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal. And I was a little indiscreet here in talking about what it was like to meet him. I think he was exactly like what I thought he would be. He was most endearing in this sense of he wants you to laugh at his joke. He wants you to listen to him and hear him. He is eager to make a connection. He was hilariously funny in talking, always off the record, or mostly off the record, about other world leaders. And he was indeed a riveting character.
Will it change
how
you write about him?
Yeah.
I think it only confirmed what I kind of thought. And I think, we have, I guess long term, I'm feeling this. We have a new president. Just more than 50% of the American people voted for him and chose him. If you are an American, you pray for that person who is your new president and hope that everything will go well. Cheer what you think is a victory. Point out what you think is bad and does not work, or is a wicked act or an irresponsible one. But just hope for the best and watch closely, I guess.